Well, I'm not in favour of breaking up public meetings. And I think it's a ludicrous idea to expect somebody to denounce somebody over whom they have no control from another party for what they choose to do. But it was an attempt to make it look as if I was encouraging that, which I was not.
Tony Benn's campaign exasperated one of Michael Foot's closest supporters.
Tony Benn considers that he has almost a birthright to lead the Labour Party. Now, I don't say that he articulates that in his own mind in such an arrogant way, but in a lot of the ways in which he has conducted himself, he does give the impression that no one else is fit to lead. So much of what he did appears to have been impelled by this idea.
Neil Kinnock had made his mark as a firebrand of the left, but many suspected him of harbouring his own leadership ambitions. And in the summer of 1981, he distanced himself from the Benn camp.
Where's Tony Benn? Yeah. Oh, he's not here today. Well, he should be. Well, we have him around from time to time.
In an article in Tribune, the Labour Party's journal of the left, Kinnock attacked Benn for encouraging a personality cult and announced that he would not vote for Benn, but would abstain.
We were very angry about it, very, very angry about it, because it was hoped that Neil and others who professed to be on the left were actually going to cast their votes for Tony Benn. So we felt very, very angry about it.
I don't think it was just simply he didn't like Benn. I think Neil had longer-term calculations, and when people of the calibre of Neil and those that want to become leaders of parties and possible prime ministers, they do have a long-term agenda, a long-term strategy, and I think that influenced Neil.
Neil's decision not to vote for Tony Benn had a number of consequences. One was that he was hated by the far left. The other was that he was accepted by the moderate left and moderate right. I don't believe Neil Kinnock would have become leader of the Labour Party had he voted for Tony Benn for deputy. So whilst I'm prepared to believe it was a not heroic but brave thing to do, it was also a shrewd thing to do. And much to his credit, if you can be brave and shrewd at the same time, that's not bad.
On Sunday the 27th of September 1981, the Labour Party gathered at Brighton for its annual conference and the election of deputy leader.
There were crowds, not necessarily of Labour Party members, lining the street between the hotel and the conference centre. And it was a national event, the like of which I haven't seen since within the Labour Party. I haven't seen so much attention paid to the goings-on in the Labour Party in the subsequent 14 or 15 years.
Inside the conference hall, delegates calculated the odds. It was clear that Tony Benn's grassroots campaign had been effective and that the result, defying earlier predictions, would be no walkover for his rival, Dennis Healey.
I remember the excitement. I remember people coming up and saying, you've won, we think you've won. I got declarations of support from some very surprising people who thought I'd won. And clearly, Time magazine had a cover prepared. I must be the only one who has the cover of the Time magazine that never appeared. There was a lot of excitement.
As I sat on the platform and waited for the result of the deputy leadership election, I thought to myself, if the polls weren't closed now, I would vote for Healey, and I would get those who were part of my loose grouping of abstainers to do the same. Because I wanted at that juncture to make it certain. I didn't even want the possibility of Tony Benn winning to become real.
People kept coming in with messages saying Benn's got it by 2%. Then somebody else would come in with a message saying Healey's just scraped it. It was the most frenzied atmosphere I've ever known at a Labour Party conference, because we knew the vote was tight, and people, at least like me, believed that if it had gone the wrong way, the Labour Party could probably not recover.
When the ballot was declared, the result could hardly have been closer.
The final decision, and I'll say this now, the votes have been counted 3 times. Tony Benn 49.574. Dennis Healy, 50.426.
Tony Benn had lost by less than 1 percentage point. Neil Kinnock's very public abstention had proved decisive.
Well, delegates, you have heard the result of the elections. Congratulations, Dennis Healy. And I can only hope that we can get on with the business of this party.
I won by half an eyebrow, half a hair of an eyebrow. And I think Tony was very upset, but he took it in good part. And I mean, he's always been a very gentlemanly, decent, silver-tongued, charming chap. It's just this destructive innocence of his which is so disastrous.
I can't say that it was a disappointment, because I never expected to win. And when I look back on it, I thought it was an extraordinarily important event in Labour politics. I still think that.
But Healy had won, and for the right of the party, his victory was a watershed.
It was a turning point because the Labour Party had decided to cling by its fingernails to reality and sanity. And that made it possible for the Labour Party to be saved. It took a long time for the Labour Party to be saved, but the Labour Party was saved, and saved as a major electoral force and a contender for government.
Now, where is Caroline?
I'm one of that small band of people who believe even now that had Tony Benn become leader of the Labour Party, our fortunes would have been very different. There would have been a clear opposition to the Thatcher regime that people could understand. But I do think we would have been in a much stronger position today than we subsequently were.
Tony Benn put on a brave face in defeat. He claimed a moral victory he had lost by the narrowest of margins in face of the full weight of the party establishment. But in reality, defeat was a devastating blow from which he and the left have not yet recovered.
The fortunes of the left receded extremely strongly. They had run out of momentum. We then were in the run-up to the '83 election, and of course we were reaping the whirlwind of anger and disgust at what were perceived to be a party at war with itself.
Neil Kinnock's refusal to support Tony Benn was also a critical moment in his career. At the 1981 conference, he put down a marker for the future and alienated many friends on the left. As the conference ended, some of Benn's allies called him a Judas to his face.
The bar at the conference hotel was extremely crowded. I mean, you really could not move. And again, someone made a disparaging remark towards Neil, and Neil immediately lost his temper and started pursuing this person through the crowds. Obviously very red-faced with fury, and I think eventually came to blows with him in the gents at the back.
I was attacked in the gents by a young man who I guess has never attacked anybody in his life. I've never seen him since. I've kept my eye out for him because I'd like to apologize to him for what I actually did to him. But he got caught up in all the emotions and so on. So he rather foolishly attacked me, and it was more stupid than malicious. But at the time, it further defined my view that if people were prepared to get carried away to that extent, then we really were in grim circumstances, and I think the years after that tended to prove that that was right.
While Labour slugged it out, those who defected to the SDP appeared to be on an unstoppable bandwagon. By-election victories followed in quick succession. Roy Jenkins captured Hill Head, a Labour stronghold. and Shirley Williams won Crosby, taking almost 2/3 of the former Labour vote.
Move from the kind of bitter, lonely battles in the Labour Party to the extraordinary